Thank you. Mr. Morris, I've got numbers here. I want to make sure they come from the NSA. In 2016, there were 3,914 702 reports contained U.S. person identities. Would that number have come from your agency?
Senator, I believe that came from the DNI transparency report, but yeah, that number sounds like it was ours.
Okay.
Yeah.
It says that 1,934 of the U.S. persons identified were originally masked, but later unmasked in response to specific requests. Is it possible for this committee to find out who made those unmasking requests?
I believe we have a request like that pending. I'd have to take that back, but
If I'm talking to the Russian ambassador in the United States, and he's been nominated as a target, would my conversations be incidentally collected?
on those facts, the Russian ambassador inside the United States could not be a target of Section 702 because he's inside the United States. So
Would there be a warrant required?
yeah, you would have to get a Title I order to target him in the
Well,
first
apparently we're following the Russian ambassador, if you believe the newspapers. How did we follow him?
Well, Senator, from a legal perspective, and I can't talk about specific
How do we
targets,
follow the Russian ambassador?
foreign officials located inside the United States, surveillance of them would have to be conducted pursuant to a traditional probable cause-based FISA order.
Okay.
Surveillance directed at
So
foreigners
let's
abroad does
assume
not.
for a moment that the National Security Advisor in transition is talking to the Russian ambassador, and the Russian ambassador is outside the United States. Can you collect without a warrant?
Foreigners abroad who
Well,
are
he'd be
reason-
outside the United States. He's a foreigner. Could you collect without a warrant?
If the foreigner abroad was reasonably expected to communicate and
Nominated.
possess foreign intelligence information relevant to a certification, then yes.
Okay, so if he's in the United States, you can only collect if you have a traditional warrant. Is that correct?
A FISA court order warrant, yes.
Okay. Is it possible to find out if I, Lindsey Graham, was instantly collected talking to a foreign leader abroad? Is that possible?
Senator, we would have to comply with the terms of our minimization procedures, which generally restrict us from deliberately.
Am I entitled to that information? Am I entitled as a United States Senator to know whether or not the intelligence community monitor a conversation I have with a foreign leader abroad?
The minimization procedures permit us.
Am I entitled as a United States Senator to know if my conversations with a foreign person overseas was collected and if somebody made a request to unmask me?
If, as a member of Congress, there's an intelligence report that reports on activities that include you and a foreign minister, by default, your identity is going to be masked. If there is a request to unmask a congressional identity, there's a process known as the Gates procedures that were established in the 1980s by former DCI Robert Gates that requires the agency to seek approval from the DNI before that unmasking.
Am I entitled to know if that happened to me?
When there is a Gates request, Congress is notified the
So
leadership.
if nobody's notified me, I assumed I wasn't collected upon.
Generally, those notifications are going to go to the leadership and to the leaders of the intelligence.
Well, I don't care what, I'm not asking about the leadership, I'm asking about me. I want to know if I'm overseas, or if I'm talking to the Russian ambassador in the United States, apparently y'all are listening, if you believe the papers. I don't know how you're listening, I assume you got authority to listen. I don't really mind if you're listening. I do mind if somebody can take that conversation and use it against me politically. Is that possible under the current system?
So I completely agree that any political use of intelligence is wrong.
Would you agree with me that whoever leaked the conversation between Mr. Flynn and the Russian ambassador did a lot of damage to Mr. Flynn?
I think we would all agree at this table that any leak of classified information causes immense damage to national security.
So let's get back to 702. I'm overseas talking to a foreign leader, which I do a lot. If they're collecting on that foreign leader, I want to know, is it possible for somebody in the administration to get a hold of the conversation and unmask me? Is that possible?
Yes, I mean.
Is it
theoretically,
possible
that
for
would be
me to
possible,
know if
yeah.
that happened?
Well, as Mr. Brooker explained, that the notification that happened.
I'm talking about to me. I don't,
Right.
Can I find that out? Yes or no? Do I have the legal right as a United States Senator to find out if my government is monitoring a conversation between me and a foreign leader? And if anybody had access to that conversation?
So we have worked with the chair and ranking member of the intelligence committees to support member requests for questions on Gates.
So
Absolutely,
is
sir.
it legal or not for me to make that, I mean, does the law allow me to get that information?
It's my understanding, Senator, we have that request from you, and we are processing
Yeah, it's like
it.
months ago. So like, am I ever going to get it in my lifetime? And if you're not going to give it to me, tell me why.
I'm not stopping you. I just want to, I wish my colleagues would appreciate what he's trying to do here and give him a little extra time. So proceed.
So
proceed.
what's the deal?
In other words, I want you to proceed until
Thank
you
you.
get an answer.
Yes, sir.
I mean, if there's anything in this country people are entitled to, it's entitled to at least an answer to their question.
I'm violently agreeing with you. So if I were you, I'd answer my question because he's mad. So what's the answer here? Am I ever going to get to know the basic facts? Because if I'm going to be monitored overseas, maybe there's a good reason to monitor the person I'm talking to. I just want to know what consequence as a senator flows my way. If somebody in my own administration doesn't like me, the other administration outside of my party doesn't like me, should I be worried about that conversation falling in the hands of political people that may one day be used against me?
So as career intelligence professional, Senator, I don't think you should be concerned because
Well,
your
then answer
communication...
my question then. Answer my question. I'm very concerned until I get an answer.
And we have your request. I know we're working on it. We have
What
communicated
is
with...
keeping you from answering that question?
So my understanding, Senator, is your requests any information about you, which we tried to narrow it with your staff. They said anything and everything, which would require every news clip, every
I don't want
article.
every news clip. I want to know conversations I may have had with foreign leaders that were monitored or foreign people that were monitored.
And so we specifically asked if, working with your staff, if we can narrow it to Gates requests where information about you was masked, and they said no. We are working with your staff to try to get you an answer as quickly as possible.
Is there a legal reason you can't answer that question?
Not a legal reason.
Okay, thanks.
Are you satisfied?
Not really, but we'll move on because other people have important questions too.